Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 11, episode 1-1 of Pushing the Pylon. This is your host, Jim Tannhauser, and guess what? They did it again. The Jacksonville Jaguars won another football game. And I hate to sound like that fan who is pessimistic about my team, but by God, I didn't expect them to win their second game of the year this week. And no, not because it's late in the season and I expected them to win two games much earlier in the year. It's because they played the Buffalo Bills. One of the best teams in the AFC. One of the best teams in the NFL. Winning their division, the AFC East. One MVP candidate at quarterback with Josh Allen. One of the best defenses in the NFL. And they went against the Jacksonville Jaguars after losing to the Seattle Seahawks 31-3. You think, no way can Jacksonville keep this game within 20. No way, right? No way at all. And they did. Not only did they keep it competitive, not only did they keep it close, but they left the field with a W on their side. And no, this episode does not need an intro because the Jaguars won. And that's all the intro you're ever going to get from me when that happens. We're going to go right into the game, of course. Now, you may sit there and think, if you didn't watch the game, I know most of you did who watched this, you would think, Jim, if Jacksonville won, what, was Josh Allen hurt? No. Oh, so Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders and, the offense must have all been banged up. No. Dawson Knox was, out, but other than that, they've been dealing with that. Buffalo's won without him plenty. Oh, a lot of the defense must be out. A lot of injuries, And no, they started the game fairly healthy. Trey White eventually left the game banged up for Buffalo, but that doesn't excuse the fact that the Jaguars won. The score, however, 9-6. So not only did the Jaguars win, they beat the Buffalo Bills, and they did it without scoring a single touchdown. Insane. Only the Jaguars could do something that absurd. And something more absurd than that, it's the first time the Jaguars won in the United States of America in 420 days at the time from that Sunday back. 420 days because, of course, the Jaguars are a walking meme. And the score was 6-9. The most meme team of sports history might be the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it makes me love them even more than I already do. Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence, man, what can I say about that? He got hurt during the game. Looked like he either rolled his ankle, twisted his ankle, hell, broke his ankle, hurt his Achilles, hurt his knee. You couldn't tell me any of that at the time. I was sitting there like a loved one passed away. Ask the people I was with watching the game. It felt like I was robbed of every ounce of happiness I had left in sports when I saw Trevor Lawrence on the field and stay down. I said, well, that's it. We heard our rookie quarterback. He's going to be shut down for the year. The rest of the season's going to be a complete joke like it was last year. And I was sitting there thinking, podcasts are going to suck now. My Jags report segments are going to stink. But lo and behold, CJ Beathard, first off, CJ Beathard, credit to him, comes in the game and starts tearing it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Besides the fact Carlos Hyde fumbled and ended the drive before half, screwed him over. CJ Beathard was fairly serviceable in his role. That being said, I didn't want to see any more CJ Beathard play. I don't want to see him play quarterback for the Jaguars anymore this year, unless it's to take a victory kneel at the end of a game. But then Trevor Lawrence on the sideline warming up, and my heart filled with warmth. My soul revived itself, and I became one again with the world and the planet. I was a happy person again. I mean, how could you not be? Your number one pick goes from what you think is a season injury with long-term implications possibly, like a Joe Burrow, to being back on the field, balling out. I use that term very lightly, balling out. 5 for 26 with 118 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And then wins the football game against the, at the time, 5-2 Buffalo Bills. And one of those losses was to the Tennessee Titans, who are in the lead of the Jaguars division. Just absolutely bonkers stuff. And what I'm more blown away by is not Trevor Lawrence, is not the stagnant offense. It's apparently that our defense went from a joke to a bunch of players that wouldn't even make an NFL roster for most other teams. No, what ends up happening is they hold the Buffalo Bills to 0 touchdowns in their own respect. They make Josh Allen throw 2 picks. They're Josh Allen. I'm going to get into the Josh Allen thing in a minute. Some of you already know where I'm going with that. But Bills Josh Allen finishes 31 for 47, 264 yards, 2 interceptions, and fumbled. Leading rusher, only 50 yards for him, 5 carries. Pretty good for a quarterback, obviously, but you'll take that when you play the Buffalo Bills. If you can make their leading rusher, Josh Allen, and hold him at 50 yards or less, take that every time. Stephon Diggs had a good game regardless. 6 catches, 85 yards. Most of those receptions came in the fourth quarter when the Bills were trying to work their way up the field. I'm just amazed by the Jaguars' performance. And Urban Meyer, I mean, put the picture, where are we going to put it? We'll put it right over there. We'll put it right here. Look at that smile on that man, Urban Meyer. I mean, come on now. Like, it's just perfect. He's back. The Jaguars, back. The team, back. My happiness and overly optimistic self for the team, back. And guess what? The Jaguars next week go and play the Indianapolis Colts. Huge division game. I'm not saying that the Jaguars are going to be fighting for a division or even fighting for a wild card spot, but they will be fighting for dignity. And if they can go next week and beat the Colts and flip their record to 3-6 with a division win under their belt, we have to start looking at the Jaguars in a different scope. Instead of being this crummy team, which, you know, we all assume they were, we got to start looking at them as, hey, this is a team of the future. If they can start stringing together wins now, we'll see. That being said, I felt the same way after the Dolphins win in London. They had a bye week. They had an extra week to prepare for Seattle without Russell Wilson, and they get completely stomped in. So this could very well, you know, age terribly in a week from now, this podcast, and we're going to be having a funeral, you know, for the Jaguar season. But we're not thinking of that right now. Not thinking of that in the slightest bit. What I did want to get to, which I hinted at before, Josh Allen against Josh Allen. If you didn't know, the Bills have a quarterback named Josh Allen, drafted 7th overall. I believe it was 2018, 2017. Don't quote me on, it's one of those. But the year after, number 7th overall, the Jaguars had the pick, and they also took a player named Josh Allen. Other side of the ball, completely different position, defensive end out of Kentucky. So it's been a running joke in the league. Who has the better Josh Allen? You know, 31 teams will tell you the Bills have the better Josh Allen, I promise. However, the Jaguars always insisted that we have the better Josh Allen. That became the nickname, the better Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, they talked to him after the game, you know, after the stats, and we'll get to that in a second. And he basically was saying how he took it personally, how everyone was kind of dismissing him as the second Josh Allen. That there was that Josh Allen in Buffalo, and then there's him. And he didn't see it that way. As far as he was concerned, he's the Josh Allen, and all the others are just imitators. So will the real Josh Allen please stand up, please stand up, please stand up? And guess what? He stood up. And the other Josh Allen was not standing up a lot, because Josh Allen, the good Josh Allen, and I'm going to refer to Jaguars Josh Allen as the good Josh Allen from here on out on this podcast. It's official. The better Josh Allen won, came out on top, and he plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, 8 tackles he had, which great on its own accord. He was the first Josh Allen to ever sack a Josh Allen in NFL history. First time the same names have ever interacted in a sack. Then Josh Allen gets an interception on Josh Allen. And then Josh Allen forced a fumble from Josh Allen. You couldn't write a better script than to have the good Josh Allen contribute so much against the Bills' Josh Allen. The name Josh Allen doesn't even have meaning in my head anymore. I've said the name so much in the past 3-4 minutes. But yeah, incredible game. Built the morale for the Jaguars up, and They did it without James Robinson. They're what has been, become known as their star offensive player. Didn't even play. He was out with the heel injury. He is expected back for this upcoming week against the Colts, which is great news. But Carlos Hyde, I don't love him as a starting running back. Like I mentioned before, he fumbled at a crucial spot when the Jags were driving down the field trying to, take a lead. But as a backup, yeah, I'll take Carlos Hyde. That's fine. But we need James Robinson back, and that's going to be the crucial piece going through this week. Though he is expected back, we've seen plenty of times before where players take a 180 and they get rested for a week, or they have a bad little step at practice and they say, you know what, maybe I'm not that healthy, let me sit out. So we'll see. In the meantime, the Jacksonville Jaguars currently have the upset of the year. They were 14-point underdogs. They were supposed to lose by over. I don't want to say by 2 touchdowns because spreads are supposed to go over or under. They can push, but the Jags were supposed to lose by essentially 2 or more touchdowns. And they won by not even getting a touchdown or allowing a touchdown. And frankly, they left points on the board a ton of times. The Carlos Hyde fumble was one. Then they have a point where they're lining up for a field goal. And there's a penalty. And as the penalty's called, he practiced kick. Matthew Wright misses left. Gets another chance to kick. Misses left again. And then there's a penalty, I believe it was on Buffalo at the time, for running into the kicker. So they get another penalty to get closer to back where they started, because it went from 42 to 47, back to 42. And I'll be damned if Matthew Wright didn't miss again left. He missed left 3 straight times. And at that point, the script was going as you normally plan. There's your big joke sequence of the game, just like last week where they didn't kick the onside kick correctly, based on the fact they only went for 1 instead of 2, which logically makes no sense still to this day. That was supposed to be the moment where I look back and say, yep, that's the Jaguars for you. Can't even kick a field goal with 3 attempts, and all 3 attempts missed in the same exact spot. But ends up Matthew Wright was the star of the game because every single point scored was by Matthew Wright. And every point of the Bills was scored by their kicker as well. Tyler Bass, of course. I should have addressed him by his proper name, as he is on my dynasty football teams and doing fairly well for me this season. So we will respect Tyler Bass. The Bills, coming into this month, there's a tweet going around out there that every team has a bye week, but the Bills thought they had a bye month. This month started where they played Miami. They had the Jaguars, and then they had a bye week in the middle of that, and they have the Jets upcoming. So the Dolphins, they beat the Dolphins. They beat them by double digits, but wasn't that impressive a win in my opinion. I think the Dolphins, played the Bills as a division rival should, respectively. And then they lose to the Jaguars without scoring a single touchdown. So the Bills are still over double-digit favorites to the Jets next week, obviously. Mike White starting for the Jets. I think the Bills bounce back next week. I think they're fine. I mean, after that, they go and play the Colts, the Saints, the Patriots, and the Bucks. So it doesn't get easier after the Jets. So they need that game. And they're on the road, which you'd say, oh, they're playing New York Jets. They get to stay in the state. Nope, they have to travel states to New Jersey. They should be fine. But if the Bills miss the number 1 seed or home field advantage by a game, and God forbid for them their division by 1 game, they're going to look back at that Jaguars game and say, we couldn't put up 1 touchdown on these guys? I mean, come on now. Stephon Diggs going to put 1 in. Cole Beasley, the anti-vaxxer, as terrible as he is, couldn't get 1 in. But better for us, right? Better for us. Good for the Jaguars. And if the Jags go and finish the year 2-15 or 3-14 or whatever, well, they'll always have this win. And I say that because the schedule's getting pretty rough. They have the Colts. By the way, Colts are over 10-point favorites. That's extremely disrespectful. I would keep an eye on that. Then they go they host the 49ers. They host the Falcons, which becomes, all of a sudden the Falcons are 4-4, where they looked like a terrible team. They're starting to edge their way back. They played a close one with the Saints. Granted, it was with Trevor Siemian, but again, division games, they're big wins regardless. Then the Jaguars play the Rams in LA, so who knows? Maybe the Jaguars get up for that game too and just lose every game besides the Bills, the Rams, the Dolphins, and they played the Cardinals close. So we'll etch the Dolphins out of there, but seems like the Jaguars play up to their competition and fold when it's anyone relatively close to their skill set. After the Rams, they have the Titans, and then they finish their season Texans, Jets, Patriots, Colts. I came into this season thinking they'd get about 6 wins or so, maybe a little over for optimism. It's not looking like that. But there's some games in there where if they can beat Buffalo, there's no reason they can't beat some of those other teams, you know? They may very well, they still have a shot to go 4-0 against an entire division this year, the AFC East. Unfortunately, it's not their own division. Jets and Pats at the end of the year, we'll see. It seems like they got their hardest competitor out of the way with the Bills. And we'll see how that plays out going forward. But in the meantime, upset of the year, Jacksonville Jaguars. You knew we had to kick off the podcast like this. Another team that did not have such a good week 9, another team near and dear to my heart, the Dallas Cowboys. The score was 30-16, but they get absolutely obliterated at home by the Denver Broncos, which made 0 sense in the world, which is why it probably happened. Dak Prescott comes back after being off the week before, and they get blown out by Denver. It was essentially 27-0 at one point. 30-16, like I said, covers that and masks up that deficit very well. Cowboys got ran all over. Javonte Williams, over 100 yards. Melvin Gordon, 80 yards at a touchdown. Even Teddy Bridgewater ran a touchdown himself. And they did this with only allowing 1 catch to Cortland Sutton. He had 2 targets all game. You'd think, okay, that's a recipe to shut down Denver's offense, is put out Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy, 6 catches, 69 yards, that's fine. I think most teams would take that with Jerry Jeudy. But to allow Tim Patrick 85 yards and a touchdown, to allow all those rushing yards that we talked about, and then for, Dak had a very pedestrian game. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, sacked twice, QBR of 24. Feels like I'm reading a Jaguars highlight from 2 weeks ago. Zeke Elliott, 50 yards on 10 carries. That's never going to cut it anywhere. And then your leading receiver is Dalton Schultz, where he's good, but yikes. That team is welcoming back Michael Gallup with open arms. Reports say he should be back playing this week, if not the week after. So that would be big for their offense, because CeeDee Lamb, 9 targets that game, but only 2 catches. Gross, disgusting, vile, hideous. What isn't hideous on the Cowboys defense, however, is those 2 linebackers. They got Leighton Vander Esch and Micah Parsons. They combined for 22 tackles, 2.5 sacks, all to Micah Parsons, and 3 quarterback hits, all to Micah Parsons. But Vander Esch with 12 tackles and 7 solo in his own right has to be included in that. The Trayvon Diggs interception streak ends. Teddy Bridgewater went the whole game without throwing an interception. So there's that. I think a lot of people are overreacting about this game, however. This is the equivalent of the Jaguars being the Bills, right? It's bad. It makes you think a little less of the Bills. But the Bills are still one of the better teams in the league. They're still going to be a playoff team. And they're still going to probably win a playoff game or 2, if not more. The Cowboys, I think the same thing. They're still the best team in their division. They're still one of the best teams in the NFC. And they're still one of the better teams in the NFL. So losing to Denver the way they did only makes them 6-2. Not the end of the world at all. They play Atlanta the week after. They can go and beat up on Atlanta. They should be able to. But they should have beat up on Denver, so we'll see. The Chiefs are after that, which is going to be a really, really fun game in my opinion. Because I for one, am still in the boat that the Chiefs are a good football team. Not playing like a good football team, but they're still a good football team. Cowboys-Chiefs, that should be a game of the week on that Sunday. I haven't looked at the rest of the schedule. But then after that, they have the Raiders, the Saints. They play 3 straight division games, 2 of which Washington and 1 the Giants. And then finish the season with the Birds, the Cardinals and Eagles. Yeah, there's probably another, we'll say 2 losses in there for the Cowboys at least. But if they can keep it to those 2 losses and they're say to the Cardinals and the Chiefs, it's fine. That's fine. They're out of division, which is big for them. One's out of conference, which is fine. But credit to Denver, though. I mean, it's a huge win for them. A week they didn't expect to. Keeps them still in the division race. Not many people give them hopes for that as they're in last place, but they're in last place tied with the Chiefs. They're both 5-4. The Chargers and Raiders are both 5-3. So that really is anyone's division, which is partly why I'm still saying that the Chiefs are fine. The Chiefs are still probably going to be AFC West champions if the Chargers don't win it on them. And then if not, I think they're a wild card team, and that's probably the worst wild card team you want to face in recent years is a Patrick Mahomes-led Kansas City Chiefs team. Now imagine winning, wild card weekend you're playing and you get the Chiefs. It's not great for that team. Good luck to whoever that ends up with the Chiefs there. Moving on around the league. I mean, the Ravens-Vikings would be my game of the week if I wasn't a Jaguars fan. I mean, what a game those two had. The Battle of the Purple, I call it. Overtime, Ravens eke it out like they usually do, and the Vikings lose a close one like they usually do. I think 7 games out of their 8 this year are decided by a score or by 7 points or less it was, or something like that. But Lamar Jackson, over 250 yards, 3 touchdowns passing, ran for over 120 yards. He outthrows Kirk Cousins. He outruns Dalvin Cook. He wins the game with a 6-2 record for his team, and he makes sure his leading receiver gets 9 catches and 116 yards. Stop doubting Lamar Jackson. It's over. He's an elite NFL quarterback. He's one of the best in the league. You can't name 10 better. Definitely. You probably can't even name 8 better than Lamar Jackson right now, especially. So that's a huge game there. You had the Falcons-Saints, which was a really good, close game. Saints last second get their touchdown to take the lead. And then 1 or 2 plays into the next drive, this man, Cordero Patterson, the surprise of the year, if you will, for the NFL, completely makes the clutchest play you can imagine. Runs right up the sideline and scores. I'm sorry, he didn't score. He ended up getting tackled later, but I thought he stepped out, to be honest. They ended up reviewing it and said the call stands. They left him up the field. And then the Falcons kicked their game-winning field goal. Young-Ho Koo. The game where we all have circle on our calendars for a big game of the week, Chiefs-Packers this week. You didn't get it with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had COVID. He's out. Shame on Aaron Rodgers. Irresponsible. We're not going to even discuss that for too long. Just know that Aaron Rodgers is in the doghouse right now. In my opinion, he was very selfish by being misleading. I don't want to say he lied. He really didn't lie. He was just super misleading. It was a political answer he gave, and now it backfired on him because people are starting to, realize about Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he's not the perfect guy. Maybe he's not the perfect, NFL player. No one is. But, character mistakes like this definitely chip the respect block down on him. And he ultimately cost his team a victory. 13-7 they lose. And Jordan Love, Jordan Love got thrown into this 190 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Nothing impressive. They want Aaron Rodgers back. I don't think that's a debate. But Patrick Mahomes only threw for 160 yards and 1 touchdown. That offense by no means ran through the Packers defense. By no means could Aaron Rodgers have not won that game if he was there. 13-7. Come on now. I think it's fair to say Aaron Rodgers cost his team a win. And it's a big win. It's out of conference, but that keeps your team with 1 loss on the year. And then you play the Seahawks, Vikings, Rams, Bears, Ravens, Browns, Vikings, Lions. Minus those last 2, Seahawks, Vikings, Rams, Bears, Ravens, Browns. That's an insane schedule coming up. So beating the Chiefs would have been huge. Beating the Chiefs on the road would have been huge. And they weren't able to do it. Partly because of Aaron Rodgers. partly because their offense just couldn't execute without him. And that's not completely his fault. That's some of the front office. It's starting to show they didn't surround Aaron Rodgers with enough weapons. Devontae Adams, as great as he is, needs someone to throw him the ball. And I don't know if any of you saw it, by the way, but Jordan Love, it was his first start in his NFL career for the Packers on the road in Kansas City. So the Chiefs were really nice. They said, hey, we'll make sure Jordan Love's mother can watch the game. We'll get her the seats hooked up and all that. They'll be good. Jordan Love's mother. I've never had that bad of tickets to a sports game in my life. She was literally in the last row. So if you look here, she was like right about here, sitting with her back to the wall. And she was there, loyal to her. She was watching her son play. She seemed like she, was smiling. She didn't seem like she was too down the dumps about it. What I don't get, though, is like, really? You can't just fork out an extra $50, $60, $100 and sit significantly closer? I mean, for $70, Chiefs Packers, actually, let's retract that. It's probably real, tickets were bumped up for that. But even $100, $120 with fees, you could probably have sat, like, we're going to keep using this like a weather forecast. She probably could have easily got seats like right here. No problem. Right here. Instead, she goes up here and takes those Chiefs seats. I don't know if that was just part of the banter for fun that she sat there or what, but didn't make much sense to me when I saw it. I said, clearly that woman can sit closer. Her son was a first-round drafted quarterback. Help your mother out. Let her sit closer. Let her see you play instead of looking like ants out there. But with 13-7, she didn't miss much. Got to get to Sunday night. It pains me. It pains me to admit it. Tennessee Titans might be good. They might be good. The Jaguars had their big win of the year against Buffalo, and you think, great. Texans lost or whatever, but the Jags can gain a game on the first place team because they're going to play the Rams, right? They're going to LA. The Rams just got Von Miller. Rams are 7-1. Of course, the Titans aren't going to stand a chance without Derrick Henry. That's what you think, right? And it was 21-3 at halftime, Titans. Insane. Plot twist. That might have been a bigger plot twist. Maybe not. Second biggest plot twist of the week. Titans beat the Rams. The final score is 28-16. And they did it because of one unit and one unit only, and that's the defense. Because the offense, Ryan Tannehill, 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Leading receiver, A.J. Brown, 42 yards, and their leading rusher had 29 yards. So it definitely wasn't that. On top of it, Robert Woods for the Rams essentially had 100 yards. Matt Stafford essentially had 300 yards passing, and they only put up 16 points. That is huge credit to that Titans defense, who, admittedly, they get overlooked a lot. A guy like Kevin Byard, who gets a pick 6 early in the game when Matt Stafford's trying to save his team from a safety, cost his team 6 instead. That's proving your worth. Kevin Byard, I thought he was one of the better safeties in the league already, but something like that further solidifies it, especially when your team's now 7-2. The Rams, you made them 7-2. You become 7-2, and the Titans are the best record in the AFC right now. So credit to them on that, and it's really scary to think of how they could have fared against the Rams if they had Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry might have put a hole right through the heart and soul of the Rams, even with Aaron Donald there. But 28-16, ultimately the Jags' big win amounts to not gaining a single game on the Titans. So a bit frustrating. I was sitting pretzel style on this chair. I had to stretch out a little bit. But insane. And then to top it all off, Monday Night Football, we had the Steelers and Bears, which looked like the Steelers were going to rout the Bears like we all thought. Ends up the Bears not only come back, they take the lead and force the Steelers to come down the field and win the game on a field goal at the end of the game. However, the big story in that game was the refs and how terrible they were. It's no secret, sports officiating is not consistent. It's not perfect. It's barely even good. And this is in all sports. We saw it in baseball. As a Red Sox fan, I saw it this year very well, and to be fair. So did the Astros before they beat the Red Sox. A lot of bad officiating. And we're seeing it in football now with this whole taunting rule nonsense. You're just having refs decide games, and not only decide games with taunting penalties. You know, it'd be something if there was like a 5-yard penalty, but it's a 15-yard penalty. That is a huge, huge, huge impact on a drive, on a quarter, on a game, on a year, essentially, for teams. And it's just shame. I'm not saying the Bears would have won the game with better officiating, but it wouldn't be the story coming out of the game, that's for sure. You know, we'd be talking about how Justin Fields almost threw for 300 yards, or how Cole Kmet almost caught for 100 yards. Or that Big Ben actually played a surprisingly efficient game. 21 for 30, 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yardage very low. But when you're not throwing picks, you know, that's perfectly fine for the Steelers, and they're going to find ways to win by letting their rookie Najee Harris shine. Going on to next week, and this is something I wanted to do here, is Thursday night, we're not going to talk about that game. I'm not going to spoil that. That's going to be a video that's going to be on our pages on Thursday. So when I'm recording this, you're going to be seeing on Thursday my prediction for Ravens against the Dolphins. However, quickly running this down, the games for next week, I see Jaguars, Colts favored by 10.5. Part of me thinks this is overreacting because of last week, and the Jags really aren't better than being a 10.5 point underdog. But I would say the Jags cover, division rival. If they lose, it's probably by a touchdown, or even 10. If the Colts win by 10, the Jaguars would still cover according to this spread. And I want to go through these now because I know on Sunday I post picks and the spreads are going to change. But as of right now, where these spreads are, I'm genuinely, it's piquing my interest to see what they are, first off, and how much they change throughout the week. If you ever keep track of that, you'd be very surprised how it pays off to either make your pick early on with the line being good, or wait until Sunday when more injuries come out or more activations and health reports come out and lines change significantly. Saw that with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs were like 1 point favorites or even 1 point underdogs against the Packers. Then Aaron Rodgers gets ruled out with COVID. Chiefs are favored by 7.5, which, by the way, if you saw the score, they didn't cover that, incredibly. Moving on, we have the Falcons and Cowboys. Cowboys -9. I think Cowboys bounce back. They're at home again. And I think they win by double digits against the Falcons. I think the Falcons had a big victory last week. I think this might be a little hangover for them. Cowboys defense bounces back against Matt Ryan. Titans -3 against the Saints. Really interesting one. You could say the same thing for the Titans. Do they have a letdown after having a big win last week? And do the Saints feel extra motivated after losing a heartbreaker last week? And I'm going to say the Titans win. I'm going to say it's a close game. But for the sake of the pick, I'm going to take the Titans -3 there. Browns-Patriots. Patriots -1.5. Seems like a correct line to me. But I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think Patriots win by over a field goal. I don't think the Browns are as good as the Patriots, and they're both 5-4. So what's weird to me there, actually, as I say that, I think the Browns actually have a better roster than the Patriots. But the Patriots they're a better team, in my opinion. And this is all being said without knowing if Nick Chubb's going to play Sunday. Currently on the COVID list. Has a chance to come back for Sunday. We'll have to see. And that's why I make my picks ultimately on Sunday, my official picks, just because of those kind of changes. Bills -12.5 against the Jets. We're going to say the Bills bounce back and run through the Jets. Steelers -9 against the Lions. I felt like an idiot when I picked the Lions against the Eagles. But something about this one makes me feel like the Lions may keep it a little closer than people expect. So right now, if it stays 9, give me the Lions +9. But Steelers definitely win that game still. Buccaneers against Washington football team. Bucs are favored by 9.5. We'll go Tampa. I think they rout the football team. Almost called them by their former name. I think the Bucs rout the football team, and I think they come off a bye week and Tom Brady's well rested and throws for 4 touchdowns against those guys. Cardinals minus 10.5 against the Panthers. Cardinals still are facing, injury bug situations. Kyler Murray still, lingering with that ankle injury. Hopkins should be good for Sunday, but, Kyler Murray's injury impacts Hopkins. Regardless if Hopkins plays or not, it matters who gets him the ball. It's a big difference between Kyler Murray and Colt McCoy. So as of right now, you're giving me the Panthers with 10.5 points. I'll take that for now. I think the Cardinals might win, but not by that much. Vikings-Chargers. Chargers minus 3. Vikings keeping games close lately, but losing them. So we're going to go with the Chargers there. We say they win by over a field goal. Eagles-Broncos. This one's the hardest game of the week for me to pick. Broncos favored by 2.5 against the Eagles. I don't love that. I especially don't love picking the Eagles. But as of right now, I think I would do it. Eagles plus 2.5. Don't love it. But if you're asking me right now, that's what I would take. Seahawks and Packers. Packers are favored by 3. It's looking like we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson both back on the field for that game. Russell Wilson for sure. We're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers to be taken off the COVID list. We're going to assume both those quarterbacks come back and play. I'll take Packers minus 3. Just a better team right now. Seahawks 3-5. They're not the team that we all thought they were. And they need Chris Carson back. They need Russell Wilson back, obviously, for us to really see how that team is. But right now, if you're giving me Wilson back from injury against Rodgers back from COVID, I'll take Rodgers in that, sure. And then finally wrapping it up, we have Chiefs-Raiders Sunday Night Football. Chiefs are only minus 2.5. I know they're in Vegas. I know the Raiders have a half game on them, and the Chiefs don't look so good. I love the Chiefs minus 2.5 there. Chiefs definitely win that game, in my opinion. Definitely win by a field goal or more, in my opinion. And I think Patrick Mahomes has a big day. Monday night's going to be Rams-49ers. We're going to hold from that prediction. I'm going to be making a post on that on Monday, so you can see what we will go with there. Final topic I want to talk about before we get going is all the Odell Beckham Jr. rumors here. Odell Beckham was let go from the Browns, whether it's mutual or what. He's off the team. He passed through waivers unclaimed. Not that surprising, but there were some rumors that some teams may try to claim him. Now it's up to Odell where he wants to go. It seems like it's been narrowed down as of today to 3 final teams. All 3 are all contenders or semi-contenders, debatably. Number 1, the Packers. Number 2, the Chiefs. Number 3, the hometown team for him, the New Orleans Saints. All of which, all those teams sorely need a guy like Odell Beckham if he's healthy and willing to ball out. That would be fantastic for them. The Saints, the hometown thing's really helping them in this because I don't think Odell Beckham would even consider going to play with Trevor Siemian if it wasn't in New Orleans. So I think that's a big reason the Saints could be the pick. The Chiefs, I think, are just there because, one, they're the Chiefs. And I feel like a lot of superstars want to go play there. I mean, Josh Gordon, he's not a superstar, but you saw he instantly wanted to go there, no problem. And you're seeing it with many other, pieces on both offense and defense. They want to go play with winners. And when you have a team who's been to 2 straight Super Bowls, 3 straight AFC championships, and won a Super Bowl within those 3 years, yeah, I can see why players want to go there, including Odell Beckham, who's never won or been to a Super Bowl. Then the Packers, which that one's like the most dark horse you could go, I guess, with that. But at the same time, Packers, like we talked about earlier, were exposed on Sunday, showing that they don't have offensive weapons besides Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. And when Aaron Rodgers is out, those pieces can't fully perform to their potential. So having Odell to take a little pressure off, not only the other receivers and offensive weapons, but to give Aaron Rodgers another target that he's so desperately been asking for the better half of this decade, or last decade, I should say, Odell Beckham would be a really cool play in Green Bay. Which leads to the question, where do I think he's going to go? And out of those 3 teams, I personally don't see him going to Green Bay. I just don't see it very, it sounds good in your head until you try to picture it. And for me, I can't picture that. I can't picture Odell in green. I can't picture Odell playing in a snowy Wisconsin weather with Aaron Rodgers and this hard-nosed, playing against teams like the Vikings later and the Bears. And yeah, the Packers probably beat those teams, but those are physically tolling teams to play against, especially in your division. NFC North, not known for its softness, that's for sure. So I would say, in my opinion, Chiefs or Saints sound the best. Saints being because it's a hometown team for him. Saints because they have Quan Alexander on their roster. If I'm not mistaken, they were college teammates at LSU. Those little things matter. Relationships do matter in the league. And the Saints just got Michael Thomas ruled out for the year. So not only are they not going to have a number one receiver for the rest of the year, but Marquez Callaway, as my good friend Blaze of a Saints fan will tell you, he is not a viable receiver. He should never be a number one, and he's not even a number two receiver. So they need something better. Guys like Adam Troutman are just not performing to what everyone thought they would. Deontay Harris can't be relied on as a big target receiver. He's a big-time play kick return. He's like Jamal Agnew on Jacksonville, really. Exceptional special teams player, one of the better players in the league at that. But on offense, you just want him there existing, and maybe he's open a few plays to throw him the ball, but you cannot rely on him if the best corner or second best corner in the other team is going to constantly cover him. And that's where Odell comes in. And that would make Trevor Siemian, I'm sure, a lot better than we all think he is now. But one final dark horse team that a lot of you are already out there speculating about, mainly because I live in New England, so I'm surrounded by it, but the Patriots. The Patriots with Odell Beckham makes such little sense that it makes perfect sense, right? Randy Moss, that made no sense going to New England. Didn't make any sense until he was on it. That made perfect sense. Antonio Brown, that makes no sense on the Patriots, right? Until he was on the Patriots for 1 week. But look how that 1 week turned out. Now, I'm not saying Odell Beckham's going to go there and catch for 200 yards a week because he doesn't have Tom Brady there, frankly. Those other two receivers did. He has a rookie, Mac Jones. But they definitely need a number one receiver there in New England. Kendrick Bourne's not cutting it. Jacoby Myers, as great as he is, currently holds the NFL record for most receiving yards without a touchdown. So you need some help there. Odell Beckham could be that perfect piece. Will he sign this week? Reports are saying probably. He could be picking any time now between now and tomorrow. I'm filming this on Wednesday. Make sure to follow Pushing the Pylon on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for updates. We'll certainly be posting about it when it happens. But if I'm going to cover my eyes and throw a dart at the dartboard here, I'm thinking real time here. I didn't come to this filming prepared for who I was going to predict. But I'm going to guess Odell Beckham Jr. becomes... I can't do it. I cannot reasonably see this man, Odell Beckham. My first instinct, I'm going to go with it. Odell Beckham Jr., New Orleans Saint. You know what? Hometown team. Not the huge pressures of, New England or Green Bay. But he's still on the outside looking in of a playoff, potential. And technically, he's not even on the outside looking in. The Saints are perfectly fine in the playoff race. But something like that. Because Kansas City, I want to say Kansas City, that would be my, big guess. But I don't know. Because then what happens is you have Odell Beckham there with Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce, with Tyreek Hill. And my question is, how is that team not the best team in the league? I mean, especially offensively. I don't think they need Odell. I don't think they need the problem of Odell. I think they'll be fine without it. And maybe I'm being unfair to Odell. Maybe he's not a problem. Maybe it's the teams. Maybe he's learned from his mistakes in his past. Maybe he'll be a perfectly serviceable receiver, just like a Randy Moss was. Just like Antonio Brown is now, to an extent. I mean, Forget all the off-the-field stuff. Antonio Brown, when he's on the field, is a problem. Is a good problem. Not a bad one. He's a good problem for the team he's on. And Tom Brady, probably front runner for MVP now, especially after last week with Kyler not playing, Rodgers not playing, Wilson not playing, Josh Allen playing terribly, Justin Herbert playing average, Derrick Henry hurt. Tom Brady has to be one of your MVP favorites right now. So Antonio Brown's definitely going to be a big part of that down the stretch once he's healthy again. But back to the point at hand, Odell Beckham, wherever he goes, he's a sought-after free agent. He's going to make an impact. I am darn sure of that. This will be the time he finally makes an impact. And he very, very well may see playoff games. He may see winning playoff games. And who knows after that? This may be Odell's most successful season accolade-wise and team performance-wise that we've seen. And he gets his choice of his future here, which is big for him. And hopefully, he lives with his decision. Hopefully a team that picks him doesn't play the Jaguars. So I don't ever have to worry about him again. But that's how the cookie crumbles. And until then, thank you so much for watching Pushing the Pylon. This has been your host, Jim Tannhauser. Make sure to follow our pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Hauser Media on TikTok, and reach out with any and all topics you want us to discuss here. But in the meantime, so long.